Rohde. We're going to talk through this. We're going to make a lot of money this year. We're going to hopefully make you guys a lot of money this year. I want to remind everybody we have a lot of great packages up, offerings up on our True DFS site. Check them out. I really think that we're offering stuff that's literally cheaper than almost everybody in the industry, and I think you're getting more. We have Goldie's aggregated projections, which is basically the industry aggregate, all the industry top sites. We took all of their projections, we combined it, averaged them out. That's what Goldie's projections essentially are. We have Sheets' projections, which honestly, you want to follow that guy. That guy wins something every week. I would encourage you to take a look at that. I will do my early builds, my exposures for the week, every week for football. I do it every day for baseball as well. And I will also do my core plays, bets of the day, bets of the week, all that stuff. And we have Rohde's playbook, which you can look forward to coming out this weekend. So I'm excited, man. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, we're going to start off. We got a game going on right now, and they just fake punted it from their own 15-yard line. The Lions then got it.
Ooh.
Right up the middle on a 2-yard run.
Wow.
2 yards, and they fake punted it, man. Crazy stuff already in the NFL. A lot of teams go for it on fourth down. We'll talk about that when we get there, guys, because there's a team that goes for it on fourth down a lot more than other teams. So maybe this year more teams are going to be scoring. So we're going to want to find those plays.
Yep. Absolutely. And the way we're going to do this, Sheets and I do an early first look. Rohde and I are going to be a little later in the week, and we're going to do like a later look, go position by position. Sheets and I first look, we go game by game. And we'll talk about stacks and stuff like that as we go through the positions. But just wanted to remind you guys of that. Also, if you're watching this, remember to hit the like, subscribe if you haven't already. We have a lot of free content as well as a lot of stuff behind the paywall. And I would obviously recommend you guys getting into our Discord. I'll post a link to that on this video, so you guys can jump on in there. But we're going to get going with position by position here so Rohde can watch his Lions, hopefully take down the Chiefs. We'll see what happens.
Most of the people at work are Lions fans, so I just have to deal with it all the time.
I know. I still call them your Lions, even though I know you're the Packers guy. It's just because you're in Michigan. It's hard for me to separate the two. All right, well, let's get into the positions. I'm sharing my screen here. We're talking about quarterbacks, which obviously is going to lead to what kind of stacks, and we're going to talk about receivers probably as we go. I'm looking at my early exposures, and I'm going to just, give these away for free this first week and talk about them. Basically, what I've got right now is my highest owned quarterback by a large amount right now, and this is going to be very unpopular as a stack of any kind, is Lamar Jackson. I think this is going to be Lamar Jackson and them, going for the jugular. I think they're going to let him use his new toys. I think they're going to let him go crazy. He's not. It's not a game that I generally love. I don't want to stack the biggest favorite of the week at home against a bad Houston team. But I just like this Jackson play when I feel like no one's going to be on it, as he's the most expensive quarterback on the board. I think he ends up somewhere around the 4 or 5% ownership range is where we have him at now. The only guy he's playing with that's going to get any real love is Mark Andrews, and I think using some of those receivers with him is a good idea. So he's my number one right now, but it's really just I'm playing more of like an overall theory that I have for the season with this one. I'm probably going to end up averaging it out between these next guys I'm going to talk about, which are all I have basically the same ownership on all of these guys: Deshaun Watson, Anthony Richardson, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Tua, and Justin Herbert. We don't have that many running quarterbacks this week, which is another reason why I like using Lamar and some Anthony Richardson. You guys know me. I always like to use the running quarterbacks. We don't, we have Jalen Hurts here, but it's not a great matchup for him. So not a lot of great spots for the running quarterbacks this week. That's why I'm so heavy on these guys. Obviously, the Houston side is a tough run back. I think Dameon Pierce is probably going to end up being my most used run back on the Houston side. I'll mix in their receivers as well, but I do want to get, even whether I run it back or not, I like the Lamar Jackson to Andrews with one of the receivers or just to one of the receivers, and you will be very unique in just doing that. And you have a chance with Lamar as being the highest scoring player on the slate. Wouldn't surprise anybody at 5% ownership. Sign me up. That's what I like. But in terms of the games I'm targeting, I said Watson and Burrow. I really like the Cincinnati-Cleveland game. I'm going to be way overweight on all the Jags games. The Jags play the fastest of any team in football, and they're going to actually be throwing the ball a lot, I believe, this year. Put them in a dome in Indianapolis. Hope Indianapolis keeps it close and Richardson does something on the other side. But lots of ways to stack it. I think that those are the games I'm targeting, in addition to the very, very obvious game, the Chargers in Miami. which at the moment, the reason I'm just sort of like near the field on, I just feel like the ownership is going to get a little too high on this slate. And if you're going to do it, we'll get into it by, at other positions, but you might want to think about using guys like Keenan Allen, who's going to be the low owned guy in that game because his price. And you might want to think on the other side of that game, maybe using Jalen Waddle instead of Tyreek Hill. That's the way I think you get different with that game. So that's sort of my sum up of my quarterbacks and I guess some of my game stacks as well. How about you, Rohde?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I'm looking at the projections here, and we got Lamar, projecting the top guy, about 5% ownership. I like that. Hurts against New England's right there, point wise, low ownership. Then Herbert at 6.9. I like that price on Herbert. He's looking at about 12% right now, so that's a little high. If you do like a little value score, you sort them by value. You do have, I don't know, you didn't talk about this one, but you got some cheap guys too. You got like Lawrence is 6'5", Geno's 6'1", but you also got Baker at 4.9. That's pretty cheap. He's getting a decent projection.
Yeah.
Against Minnesota. I don't know if this is right or not.
No, I think it's right because Minnesota, remember, this is one of the worst teams at holding. I mean, they got thrown.
Yeah, I think they're terrible at defense.
Yeah.
I like all the quarterbacks you said. I'm a big Chargers fan, but when you see that ownership, I got a big 4-4-4-4 ticket this weekend. It's going to be hard to decide which team goes in that lineup for my quarterback stack. I do like the Lamar idea with his ownership. He's 8K though. He's a little bit priced up compared to some of these other guys, but sorry, I got distracted with this Detroit game.
It's tough. I know we did it on the first night of the season because it was the time that worked the best for us, but it's unfortunate because it's really, really hard to not keep an eye on the game. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's hard to keep. Yeah, because in Montgomery and Gibbs are just tearing it up down the field. Gibbs had to go out, or Montgomery had to go out. Shoe fell off, and Gibbs broke.
Gibbs would have had that one. He just slipped.
Montgomery broke a big run, and they're down in the goal line, 3rd and 6. Though
Gibbs would have had that last one if he didn't fall down. Gibbs
might have had that. So my running backs are looking good here, but now they're gonna have to throw. So this kind of ticks me off. So now someone's gonna vulture this touchdown. Hopefully it's Laporta or something that we liked earlier on the show.
Yep.
It's gonna be Amon across the middle. Get the first. Walks in for the touchdoon. Too easy.
Yeah, that's what happens, unfortunately. All right. Well, let's move back to
let's get back to quarterbacks. I like Herbert a lot. Lamar grades out the best, like you said. Burrow's there at 7.1. Nobody's 6% owned. Tua on the other side of that Chargers, though, is going to be about 5% owned. I mean, you could probably switch over to that side of the game. Get a little stack there if you wanted. Mm-hmm. But I like all the quarterbacks that you said.
Yeah, and I want to reemphasize what you said about Baker. Baker Mayfield is going to have like one weird week, and why wouldn't this be the week? He could put up enough points for you probably in a losing effort in where they don't even score them. I mean, he's so cheap. It really does allow you to open things up. And, you don't need to double stack him, but you could. You have two good receivers with him. Maybe you just pick – I would probably lean a little more Godwin than Evans, but both are fine to pair with him. I like the Baker call by you, and I will definitely get some Baker exposure. I probably will end up with a little bit of exposure from some other guys down in that range, maybe even get to like a Howell for Washington. Not like overly excited about it, but it's a play I'm considering.
I actually forgot to mention Howell. He's also 4.9, so there's a couple viable cheap quarterbacks that you can stack this week if you want to load up some positional players that we're going to get to in a minute here.
Yep. So let's talk about running backs. All right, so let's get into it. I'll just make this really, really easy. I don't know if I'm going to play Christian McCaffrey like at all this season, personally. I think it's the biggest trap in football. I do think he'll have good games, but as long as they keep him as the highest priced guy, not going to happen for me. I believe in what they say when they're going to give Eli Mitchell a lot of touches as well. I also don't think McCaffrey is going to stay fully healthy all year because he just never does. He's not a guy I would have ever taken in season long. I think I had him rated as my 10th running back. So I'm just going to put that part out there for what it's worth to start the season. Sure, he'll have some weeks where I regret it, but I don't think it's going to happen often enough. So running backs for me, because I'm stacking up the Baltimore game some, I do have some Dameon Pierce, but Joe Mixon rates really highly for me. Kenneth Walker, pretty chalky. I also rates highly. Austin Eckler rates highly, chalky. I really like Etienne. I like, and then you got the super chalk of the cheapies, the Deion Jackson. I like getting overweight on Chubb as a different way to get exposure to that game that's going to be popular. I don't think Chubb is going to get a ton of love, and I'm going to force in Derrick Henry as sort of like my anti. Instead of playing, McCaffrey more expensive, I'm going to probably play some Henry every week and just know that a couple times of the year he's going to get there for me. So that's most of my pool. I think you could throw Raheem Mostert into it. That's most of the guys I'm using right now. A lot of good options, but those are my favorites.
Yeah, I like that. One other guy that I might throw in, if you're not playing the Lamar Jackson stack, maybe get a little bit. J.K. Dobbins is okay at 6'6", I think. I mean, 4% owned against the Houston team that we think sucks. So if you don't, I know there's a committee. He's coming off he hasn't played the best, but I think he's wanting a statement year right now. So I think he's okay. He's way down the list. So I mean, he's just a guy that Bobby didn't mention that you could play that Baltimore Houston game that's got a high total for Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Usually you take running backs, especially if they're low owned. They're just going to run it out, beat up Houston a little bit.
Yeah, and my only fear with that was that what if I guess I took a stance with my Lamar take and my Baltimore take, which sort of makes me less on Dobbins, but I would be playing him if not for that particular take of mine. I think he's totally makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. If you're not on the full Lamar take, you can take Dobbins as a counter, to that. ETN I like. I've done a lot of best ball drafting with him. This Deion Jackson guy's 4-1, right? So I mean, you kind of gotta, play a little off that a little bit, I'd say. You do have Rashad White against for Tampa against Minnesota. Again, weak defense at 5% ownership at 5.5. Could be a value pivot if you wanted. I don't like Bijan Robinson, I think, at 8K. I think that's a little high. He is going against Carolina. He's about 8% owned. He's getting a good projection, but they did say they were going to use a few backs. So I don't know if he's worked his way to the number one guy right now as well. So, I mean, he's going to be good. Obviously, we know that. So he's going to get the points. I just don't know if they're going to give it to him right away, let him earn his keep a little bit. We'll see. Mm-hmm. Another reason I don't like Deion Jackson as much, I know he's 4-1. I know he's going to get a lot of love. They did come out and say they're going to play running back by committee. Coach said that he's going to feed the hot hand. Last time they said that, Deion Jackson went off. He was the hot hand. But, I mean, it could change every week, so.
The only thing is they don't really have other true.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So I'm definitely going to have Deion Jackson.
Yeah.
It's going to be terrible. I really wouldn't want to play. I don't want to play in my 4-4-4, to be honest with you. But I do love the Chubb call because I played a lot of Chubb. Kenneth Walker, big Michigan State guy, 6K, very low price tag. So, yeah, I definitely want to use all the guys that Bob mentioned.
I'll be very surprised if Deion Jackson really ends up 10% owned, but that's what the industry is telling us right now. If he's 10% owned, I think we just go – I'm going to go way overweight on that play. I'm just going to absolutely load it up. If I think he's going to be 20+% owned, I'll probably go the other way and be underweight on it. You know what I mean? It's just pretty basic for how I'm going to treat the Deion Jackson situation this week. It's all going to be based on what I think the ownership will be. And my guess is in the higher buy-in, smaller field tournaments, you're going to see a lot more Deion Jackson than you do in the large field, smaller buy-ins. Yes, I said that correctly.
Yeah, okay.
All right, let's move over to receiver. Obviously, the most interesting position usually we can talk about because there's so many different ways to go. They're going to correlate for me early on with my stacks. The one thing I want to point out is that Marvin Mims, who's basically the wide receiver 2 in Denver against Vegas, is 3K. Rashid Shaheed is 3,700. I'm just going to mention the value guys and Kendrick Bourne. Those guys are not showing like they're going to get a lot of ownership. I will be well overweight on Mims in a similar style to the Deion Jackson play. I don't know if I trust Russ Wilson. I don't know if I trust Denver at all, but it is Vegas. And I've seen these games completely shoot out. I've also seen them completely dud out in the past so many times. And I just want to take shots depending on where the ownership is. So Mims, again, if he ends up above 10%, probably going to be pretty low on him. If he ends up a little higher, I'm going to be higher. But the main guys for me, I just wanted to talk about the value first. And the main guys I've got, I changed my page, unfortunately, so I don't have my exact exposures. Let me pull my exposures up really quick. The main guys for me are going to be Justin Jefferson as of right now. But again, I don't know how much I actually am going to end up doing it. I think it's going to be a little too popular for me. So I'm probably going to be lower on that one. I have a ton of Amari Cooper. Again, I'm playing a lot of Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman because, take one of those guys with Lamar and hope it's the right week for them. Zay Flowers is 4K, and it's just funny because if you've been doing best ball drafts and stuff, and even like the auto rankings on him have him like well ahead of Bateman. I'm not saying that'll happen week 1, but I do believe in the talent. So I like those guys. Obviously, I mentioned Keenan Allen as a way to get a little bit different in that Miami LA Chargers stack. The popular ones in that game are going to be Tyreek Hill and Williams. I'll have exposure there as well. I'm also going to have exposure on the to a lot of exposure to Jalen Waddle, and then just some weird plays that I think one of George Pickens or Deontay Johnson in that mid range are going to be very appealing. Jamar Chase, I love. Actually, all the receivers for Cincinnati I like, and the receivers for the Browns are going to be pretty high on my list. Other than that, I've got a little bit of actually a pretty good bit of DK Metcalf, Chris Kirk. Tyler Boyd is the way to get different in that game from a receiving standpoint. He's going to be the low-owned one of the bunch for good reason. He's the number 3 receiver, but they're going to play the 3 wide receiver sets all the time, and he'll have an opportunity at 4,100 to steal something. I am going to throw in a little bit of Rondale Moore just for, again, another low-owned guy with a little bit of upside who can get there in like one play. And then I would like to get some exposure to both Tampa Bay receivers where I'm going to play Baker, that being Godwin and Evans. Those are my main guys. And it's a lot of guys, but look, you're going to have a lot of receivers we're going to be playing for in a lot of lineups.
Yeah, I mean, that's still a pretty good receiver breakdown. I didn't realize only Zay Flowers was that cheap, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you wouldn't have thought that playing best ball, right?
No, he's going higher in best ball for sure. He's definitely up there.
Mm-hmm.
Even that, Addison for Minnesota is going up there quite a bit too. So some of these young guys, Mims was going up there. I grabbed Mims before I had Tim Patrick before that injury. I got kind of lucky in a few early drafts for that reason. No Judy, you got Mims and Sutton. No one's even playing. I don't think those guys are going to be that chalky even.
Mm-hmm.
Keenan Allen 7%. You're right over Mike Williams at 7.3. Can almost jam both of them in there, but you could also play Eckler,
I must have missed
Herbert,
something here because
Allen. What's that?
No, I didn't realize. You know what? I missed the injury report where I got Judy as healthy. I had him as out all week. So Judy being in, take Mims a little bit down for me. I didn't realize that Judy was actually in. So
Judy is in.
Yeah, so Judy is in. So that's going to put me more on Sutton. Probably won't play Judy, but I probably won't play much Mims either. Sorry about that, Rudy.
Gotcha.
I just noticed that too. I think it just happened today, probably, that we found that out.
Yeah, because I don't even think some of these projections are updated to reflect that.
Yeah.
So I still don't have Judy in on these projections. So.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I was just going through each team, guys, kind of looking at the receivers. Addison is getting a good projection there at 5-1 for Minnesota against Tampa. I mean, you got to think Tampa's not going to be that good either. But Jefferson's probably going to get a lot of love. He's about 14% owned in that matchup. I did like some Jordan Love initially too. I forgot to mention him as quarterback at 5K, but it looks like he might be without a couple of his receivers. So, if Watson and it shows them in looking good now. So maybe there's some updates here. That'd be a 3 strong receivers. I might have a little Green Bay stack as a low own. So Jaden Reed, Watson, Dobbs, one of those guys. Just kind of some receiver stacks I like. And then I think you mentioned DK Metcalf, 9%. Got Tyler Lockett there too at 6-7. That won me a lot of money just stacking Lockett and Metcalf and Russell back in the day, week 2. That's when I won good money week 2 last couple years ago. But like Lockett, Metcalf are always a good stack. So if you got that going, I like that. Rams should be a bad team. I think Seattle's going to be a lot better than people think. So definitely a good stack. So this week's actually got quite a few good matchups, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of interesting ones. Not a lot of high totals though, other than the Chargers.
Yeah, the Chargers though only 26, but I mean you got Minnesota at 25.5.
No, I mean game stacks. There's only one
game totals. Yeah, because the Miami and the 23. Yeah, it's more blowout central, right? Like Jacksonville versus the Colts and
they put
Baltimore versus Houston, right? So 16 total for Houston.
Yeah.
Maybe we should try some of these garbage teams. Nico Collins, Robert Woods, Tank Dell at 3K. He's getting a lot of hype all of a sudden. Maybe he's your run back against in the Baltimore stack. Maybe they keep it close. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a flyer at 3K. Maybe it's a little different off Mims if you want to throw. If you're playing the $5 milli this week, they got a $5 milli. take some shots at some of these little weird stacks. You might want to throw a player or two in there that low ownership. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. What I got at receiver.
I do want to point out that you can see the spinning wheel on my list. I lost my player exposures because DraftKings is officially down. Took him all of 10. What I don't know. Took him 35 minutes of the NFL season in one game for them to go down. So come on, guys, get it together. You guys have $700 billion in advertisements on everything in the world, and we can't get it to work. All right, just frustrating.
I think everything. Everybody's. Yeah, I got their new error page with little money signs on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I can't get the can't get my ownership. That's okay because I know who I like at tight end. I like Mark Andrews obviously at the top. I think he's a really good option to spend up for. I am going to be under on like guys like Hawkinson. I like Goddard in general. This is not the week I'm going to be playing him. I do like Higbee. I do like Ingram at low ownership. I like Dalton Schultz, and I love David Njoku. Be ready for a good year from Njoku. And then I love Gerald Everett, who's another one guy you can get different with. He's 4,300. Miami cannot cover the middle of the field last year. So I think we go ahead and we play some Gerald Everett. That sounds pretty good to me. I think Dulcich would be the next guy for me. And then down at the bottom, I would like to get my actual list of what my exposures are. But down at the bottom, there really aren't we don't have like a 2,500 tight end who's popping off. You know what I mean? Who looks like a great play. Looks like Irv Smith is the cheapest guy who's projecting, with the best fantasy point per dollar. I just don't. I guess for me, the one guy I'd spend all the way down on would be Noah Fant at 3,100. I still believe in the talent level, and maybe they get him more involved this year. So I like Noah Fant.
Yeah, I really believe in the talent level. I just got to say one thing: they just ran a jet sweep to Tony. He got down to like the 1.
I know, I saw that.
That's brutal, man, because he's in my big lineup, and that would have been a good score for him. They're still going to throw it. Maybe Noah Gray gets a touchdown. Goes to everybody. Somebody's wide open.
There's a lot of sports going on right now. So they paused the U.S. women's semifinal of the U.S. Open with the most popular woman playing. I actually like the tennis, so that was one thing. You got
remember when I brought up Rashawn Rice?
The Dodgers pitcher Pepio has a perfect game going. The Dodgers have now scored 10 or 11 runs. I don't know even which one. Who got it? Rice? Ugh, gross. Gross. All right. And then we got Rice scoring in the end zone. Not even one of the guys who I played today. So
I think I got a couple of them, but I did mention them at least. Back to tight ends, like you didn't say one guy, Dallas Goedert. I mean, I like him a lot.
I mentioned that I don't particularly like him this week, but go ahead if you like him.
Well, I like him a little more because he's only 4% owned. Yep. He's only $5K. That seems a little too cheap for a primo tight end and a primo offense. That's the only reason I like him.
Yeah.
But I like big on these Packers. I'm a Packers fan, but Luke Musgrave at 2.9, top tight end. I mean, he scores 1 touchdown and 5-6 catches or something. He's definitely viable at 2.9.
What are your thoughts on Noah Fant? I mentioned him before, and he's in that Rams game where I think that the Rams in Seattle, it's a boom. It's the same as the Vegas and Denver. It's going to be
Noah Fant. I love. I'm all over that guy in best ball.
All right, so
that's my last pick. I believe in the talent too. He's only 3.1.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, Noah Fant, definitely one of the guys that I could get behind this week.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, he's got a little competition with Will Disley, but I think he should overcome that. So like, I know you mentioned Dulcich down there at 4K. He's another cheap option. There's really a lot of cheap. All the tight ends are cheap this week. Juwan Johnson, even at 3.9 for the Saints, he's supposed to be somewhat decent. You got Eifert.
Yeah.
Cole Kmet's only 4K. A lot of starting tight ends, guys, that are just kind of priced down right now. We don't know what their workload, their volumes are going to be with some new moves on the team.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Everyone always puts Higbee up there. He's always at the top playing, 11 points, but he gets a lot of dump offs, a lot of reps too.
Yeah, he was banged up all last year. Expect a little bit better.
All banged up, yeah.
All right, let's talk defenses and special teams a little bit. I mean, just defense. I don't know why I said whatever. We'll just call it defense. I've never said defense, special teams. There. Your cheap defensive options. So you're going to have massive chalk on the Commanders, and it makes sense on paper. Like they should dominate at home. They have a good defense anyway. They're too cheap, and they're playing Arizona, who's arguably the worst team in football. And then you've got some other ones. But what I like doing is just playing the Cardinals on the other side of that game at 1/10 the ownership. I will have some Cardinals exposure. I will have some Las Vegas exposure at the low end. And you know us, Rohde, we like to spend down on our defenses, right?
Yep.
And maybe my favorite will probably end up being the Bucks in Minnesota. Remember, It's not about how many points you give up. It's about how many, if you get any pressure on the quarterback, will he turn the ball over? Kirk Cousins answers every time that question. He says, yes, we can. he will turn the ball over if you give him an opportunity to. So I like the idea of getting them. In terms of spending for a defense, I think the Seahawks at 3,300 against the Rams, my Rams. So remember that I'm saying this. I do think the Seahawks are a team that I would like to spend up for. I think this is a really good spot for them. For their defense, because it's not even spending that much. It's 3,300. The Rams may end up just being an absolute dumpster fire this year, and could also end up being awful. They do have enough talented guys still on the roster to where maybe not, but I think I would take that shot. So I like all the cheap ones, and we'll definitely be underweight on the Commanders, but I will be on all the other cheap ones with the Rams as my favorite spend up and the Falcons as my second favorite at 3,200.
Yeah, the Seahawks are good. I like them for week 1 survivor pool too. They're a little different because everyone's going to be on the Commanders this week against Arizona. Probably every week you probably stack against Arizona, probably be okay. But yeah, that Bucks call is probably a good one at 2.2K. I really like that against Minnesota. I mean, they're so that's a pretty good one. I'm trying to see if I like any other ones. Definitely like the Seahawks, like you said, and. Yeah, that's probably the best ones. Even spending up kind of gets a little. The Ravens at 4K against Houston, but Houston's a young team, so we'll see if they got any firepower. They got some young receivers. They got a young quarterback. So maybe it's at Houston. So could be a little bit worse than we think. Maybe they do a little bit better than we think.
Mm-hmm.
Chargers at 3-1 Miami. Don't want them.
Yep.
And Packers at 2.8 might be viable against Chicago. I think Packers defense is decent this year, so don't sleep on them. If you got them in fantasy leagues, regular fantasy leagues, I like them a little bit, and I like your call on. You said you're going to switch it over to do Arizona or the Cardinals on the other side too, right? So at 2.5, yeah. Those are pretty much the defense I'm going to use. I like the 2.2K. I'm kind of mad. We don't have a 2K defense this week to talk about.
Yeah, I know. We don't have the flat 2K one. They don't even give us an option this week. Come on. First week of the season, guys. Give us an option.
Yeah, 2K. First week, we don't even have a flat 2K option.
Give us that extra $100 back. Come on. So I did a thing this week where I actually ranked my favorite stacks, and we'll use it as the final sort of segment of what we're doing here. I'd like to be able to show more on my screen, but with the DraftKings thing, it's a little tricky. I factoring in ownership and everything considered, I actually have Baltimore skinny stack as my favorite stack. I don't even know that I'm going to necessarily run it back, but I really like the Baltimore skinny stack when you factor in ownership and everything. I have them number 1. I have the Bengals, Browns number 2, Miami, and the Chargers number 3. Now, if I was just picking my favorite games to target, based on forgetting the ownership, I would have Miami and the Chargers number 1 without even thinking about it, obviously. But when we factor in ownership, everything else, and the pricing of the players, I have them rated 3rd. I have Jacksonville and Indy, and it's sort of a wild card game, but it really could go any which way, and it wouldn't surprise me. I don't really know who to pair with Richardson on that side of it, but I want to attack this I'm going to be high on this Jacksonville offense all year long. I'm going to be interested to see what happens with Richardson because I think he's really, really crazy talented, but probably not quarterback ready yet. We'll probably find that out, but I'm willing to gamble. And then after those, I have Minnesota, Tampa Bay, the Philadelphia side of things mostly, but Philly, New England, the Vegas, Denver, and the Rams, Seahawks in that order. So that's my 1 through 8 of my favorite stacks of the week. Rohde, what stands out to you? And I know you're going to say, I know what your number 1 is going to be, regardless of ownership and anything. I know who you're playing the most. We know who you love to play. So just give us the number 1, and then give us some other teams that you like, some other stacks you like.
Yeah, obviously the Chargers. We talk about that all the time. Yeah. I did talk about the Bucs stack. That's not terrible. Really cheap price. Sam Howell, really cheap price. A lot of these early season, we've seen quarterbacks cheap win because you can put studs in there. You can get Austin Eckler's, Nick Chubb's, all these big running backs that are all 3-down backs. They talk about Chubb catching passes. Derrick Henry started catching passes last year. Bobby wants to force him in. So make sure, if you can get one of these cheaper stacks, you can play some really expensive guys that have big games, 30, 40-point ceilings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
we can stack, Jalen Hurts at 7,800 and then A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, but you just used up a lot of your salary. Now you're playing the Deion Jacksons, the Mims, and all these cheaper guys. So I don't mind some of these cheap stacks early on. So another one would be I like your Jacksonville call against Indy. That's not Kirk's one of my favorite players I drafted in best ball this year as well. Calvin Ridley looks good for him as well coming out. So you can always play, Burrow and Boyd that Bobby mentioned. Boyd is a great play. Geno Smith at 6,100 and DK and Lockett weren't that expensive, and we got Noah Fant cheap too. Another stack I really like, the Seattle one. I'm going to have some of them. So I'm really going to have a lot of those stacks. One stack I'm really going to look forward to checking out is Derek Carr. See how he plays in the Saints offense with Chris Olave. And, they're supposed to be good. He's ripped. He looks a little bit bigger this year. So at 5,300, he could be good. And then you can run it back with Derrick Henry type thing. So it's definitely viable in that, like a little mini correlation there. So.
Yeah, the Olave and Thomas thing is they're the two guys in the same price range on the same team that I was sort of debating between. I think both those guys are kind of interesting, and Olave obviously is the more trendy one right now, and for good reason. Maybe Michael Thomas is done, but what if Michael Thomas just bounces back and turns into like what he used to be? It's not impossible. We've seen it happen before. Nice little play for Laporta as we speak. Anyway. All right, so let's keep moving. We're gonna finish things up. I'm gonna try to do this every week. It's always hard to get one out of Rohde, but I'll try to make a hot take. I think I'm just gonna stick with my original one that Lamar Jackson is on the millionaire winning lineup, and Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback play this week. Again, I'm gonna have plenty of other builds. I'm just gonna stick with this though. In general, I'm gonna be heavy on Lamar, and I think that they're gonna try to cram it down teams' throats, and I think that Lamar is going to be in great position to have a chance at another MVP. So that's where I'm at. That's my hot take, I guess.
I actually like that hot take, just because, you got a really nice hot take there with him, because I love pairing him with Mark Andrews all the time. Like me and a quarterback tight end, I love Jalen Hurts and Goddard tight end stack. Like I love the quarterback to tight end stack. So I'm pretty high on that. Hot take though.
Maybe just like one guy at a position that you think has a chance to be in the millionaire winning lineup or something like that. Like you just said one that was interesting. I mean, if you like the quarterback at tight end, what about like a guy like Gerald Everett or something like that in that game you like?
I mean, yeah, Gerald Everett's good. I'm telling you right now, I think Jordan Love's going to have a decent game.
Okay, you sold me. I was waiting for you to really go on it. I'm in on Jordan Love.
I'm a Packers fan, but a lot of people hating this move. A lot of people down on them, think that they're going to be a bad team this year. Their defense is okay. I think they got a decent offense. They got two good running backs. We didn't even mention Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon.
By the way, we didn't. You're right.
We didn't. We
probably should.
So we went kind of fast through running back, but it's all good. Eckler's good, but I think the hot take is Jordan Love does better than people think.
Okay,
he's going to be a stack you might want to have.
Yeah, I'm going to get a Jordan Love stack or two. I was just waiting for you to say it the second time. I heard you say it before when we talked about quarterbacks, but like he and Baker are the two that I was sort of like flirting with. So I will be happy to take some Jordan Love shots. All right, guys. Well, good luck. We look forward to a good long week. Remember, we'll be there every Sunday for you at 11 a.m. Eastern time. It'll be me, myself, and I. No, it'll be me, Sheets, and Rohde. And it should be a lot of fun. It's been a long day, and looking forward to a really fun, profitable, long season with you all. Again, remember, check out our deals that we have out there. Any questions, you can always hit me up in the Discord. You can hit Rohde up in the Discord. We're pretty good about responding if you tag us. And even if you don't, Rohde will probably still jump in there because he's really active in the Discord. We really appreciate it, and keeps it really fun and lively in there. So look forward to a fun sweat on Sunday. Rohde, what do we say when we end the show?
All right, guys. As always, let's get it.